President Donald Trump said Wednesday that Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky will visit the White House on Friday to sign a long-sought minerals deal that will closely tie the two countries together for years to come. According to Assosicted Press, Trump made the announcement at the start of the first cabinet meeting of his second term, hailing the deal as a very big agreement. The Republican president has long complained that the United States has spent too much taxpayer money to support Ukraine in the war with Russia that began when the Kremlin invaded 3 years ago. Trump has framed the emerging deal that would give the U.S. access to Ukraine's deposits of so-called rare earth minerals, used in the aerospace, defense, and nuclear industries, as a chance for Kiev to pay back the U.S. for aid already sent for the war effort under Democratic President Joe Biden. The previous administration put us in a very bad position, but we've been able to make a deal where we're going to get the money back and a lot of money in the future, Trump said. Zelensky said at a news conference early Wednesday in Kiev that a framework of an economic deal had been reached, but that it did not yet include U.S. security guarantees, which his country sees as vital. The full agreement could hinge on the upcoming talks in Washington. The framework is a preliminary step toward a comprehensive package that will be subject to ratification by the Ukrainian parliament, Zelensky said. Ukraine needs to know first where the U.S. stands on its continued military support, Zelensky said. He said he expected a wide-ranging conversation with Trump. Trump also said Ukraine could forget about joining NATO, the Western military alliance, and he hopes to soon speak face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin about reaching an agreement to end the war in Ukraine that began when Moscow invaded in February 2022. The Republican president declined to detail what concessions he would ask the two sides to make, but he underscored his administration's position that Ukraine's aspiration to join NATO, the Western military alliance, is not tenable. NATO, you can forget about it, Trump said. I think that's probably the reason the whole thing started. Since returning to office last month, Trump let Ukraine know that he wanted something in return for tens of billions of dollars in U.S. help for Ukraine. The White House has applied heavy pressure on Ukraine to grant American access to its vast reserves of the minerals. The latest version of the agreement, seen by the Associated Press, says the U.S. supports Ukraine's efforts to obtain security guarantees needed to establish lasting peace. It does not spell out any U.S. commitment to provide them. After Zelensky spoke, a White House official made clear that accepting the agreement would be a precondition of Trump's invitation to meet Friday. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the invitation.
We're doing very well with Russia, Ukraine. President Zelensky is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement, which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. You really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things. And as you know, we're in for probably $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. And that's a big difference. So we're in for probably 3 times as much, and yet it's very important to everybody, but Europe's very close. We have a big ocean separating us, so it's very important for Europe, and they hopefully will step up and do maybe more than they're doing, and maybe a lot more. The previous administration put us in a very bad position, but we've been able to make a deal where we're going to get our money back, and we're going to get a lot of money in the future, and I think that's appropriate because we have taxpayers that shouldn't be footing the bill, and they shouldn't be footing the bill at more than the Europeans are paying. So it's all been worked out. We're happy about it, and I think that very importantly, we're going to be able to make a deal. Most importantly, by far, we're going to make a deal with Russia and Ukraine to stop killing people. They'll stop killing young Russian soldiers and young Ukrainian soldiers and other people in addition in the towns and cities. And we will consider that a very important thing and a big accomplishment because it was going nowhere until this administration came in. They hadn't spoken to President Putin in 2 years. And, so we'll keep you advised. It's very important to everybody, but Europe's very close. We have a big ocean separating us, so it's very important for Europe, and they hopefully will step up and do maybe more than they're doing, and maybe a lot more.
Responding to reporters' questions about a potential visit from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky amid reports that a rare earth minerals deal is imminent, U.S. President Donald Trump said, "I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to. And he would like to sign it together with me," Trump said. "And I understand that's a big deal, very big deal." According to Associated Press, 3 senior Ukrainian officials said Tuesday that Ukraine and the U.S. have reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal that would include the exploitation of rare earth minerals. The officials, who were familiar with the matter, spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. One of them said that Kiev hopes that signing the agreement will ensure the continued flow of U.S. military support that Ukraine urgently needs. The agreement could be signed as early as Friday, and plans are being drawn up for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to travel to Washington to meet Trump, according to one of the Ukrainian officials. Another official said the agreement would provide an opportunity for Zelensky and Trump to discuss continued military aid to Ukraine, which is why Kyiv is eager to finalize the deal. Trump also told reporters he was interested in buying rare earth minerals from Russia.
No, the digital tax is taking place all over Europe. They're taxing us, and they're doing other things. They're suing all our companies.
Is it true that President Zelensky is coming on Friday to meet with you, and is the mineral deal sorted out?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, you know, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy, and it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. And look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting a war that should have never ever happened. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president, and it didn't happen for 4 years. People say, how do we know that? It didn't happen for 4 years, would have never happened. And nevertheless, this guy went into this situation and he spent money like nobody's ever seen, $350 billion. The other thing that we don't like is that Europe has spent $100 billion, we've spent $350 billion. Europe gets their money back because they spent it in the form of a loan, and we just gave them, whether it's 300 or 350 billion, nobody really knows. They can't even tell me the answer to that, but it means probably more than that. So what we're doing is now we're saying, look, we want to be secured. We want to get that money back. We're helping a country through a very, very big problem, a problem like very few people have had. Shouldn't have had this problem because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, so we have to straighten it out. But the American taxpayer now is going to get their money back plus.
Mr. President, yesterday with Emmanuel Macron, you said you had spoken to Putin about the idea of peacekeepers in Ukraine, that Putin was fine with it. The Kremlin, I guess, has said that that's actually unacceptable to them. What's real here?
That's not what I was told, but you're going to need some form of peacekeeping, so something will be done that's going to be satisfactory to everybody. We need peacekeeping too.
Any situation where
It's
there's
actually,
American troops involved?
it's actually something I did discuss, but a form of peacekeeping that's acceptable to everybody. Ultimately, we'll be able to agree on something, I'm sure. I think it's disgraceful, and Google's being sued, Facebook's being sued, and many others are being sued.
You spoke to Vladimir Putin. Did he raise, or did you discuss at all, the possibility of a minerals deal on the Ukrainian land that Russia now controls?
I didn't discuss it, no. I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land, too, if we can. The rare earth. They have very good rare earth also. They both do. I would say that. And oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing. If we sell this, it's great for Russia, too, because we can do deals there. They have very valuable land that isn't utilized. So something like that could take place, yeah.
Have you been raising or lifting sanctions against Russia on the table?
No, we haven't lifted any sanctions on anybody.
On the table as part of any negotiation?
Well, I guess it will be at some point, but right now we haven't agreed to lift sanctions on anybody. Nothing to do with the taxes, because the taxes is what's bringing all these companies